Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom to the world, to Macon, Middle Georgia, Georgia, the United States, Brazil, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, London, and all kinds of cool places in England that I can't pronounce. It's good to have you with us. Oseh Shalom Bimromav. I don't know if he wrote it or not, but it's called, this is the Travis Fisher version. go with that, I just wanted to give you some blues on a Shabbat morning because everybody needs that. In a positive way. Positive blues. Did you know there's such a thing? That was it. Welcome, everyone. Good to have you. Good to be with you. Let's do that to that to that. Modeh ani lefanecha. I graciously thank you, living and eternal King, for restoring my soul within me. You know, amazingly, not to inject more blues into the day, but some people didn't wake up today. Some people went to sleep last night and that was it. We did. It's an opportunity. Every day is an opportunity. That's why we start the day by saying, Modeh ani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam. Thank you, God, for giving me another day, restoring my soul within me.
How
אתה בנשמתי וחמלה רבה אמונתך אתה בנשמתי וחמלה רבה אמונתך Your love, oh Lord, reaches to the heaven. Your faithfulness stretches to the skies. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your justice flows like the ocean sky. Now we lift my voice to worship you, my King. I will find my strength in the shadow of your wings. Your love, oh Lord, reaches to the heavens. Your faithfulness stretches to the sky. Your righteousness is like the mighty mountains. Your justice flows like the ocean sky. I will lift my voice to worship you, my King. I will find my strength in the shadow of your wings. I will lift my voice to worship you, my King. I will find my strength in the shadow of your wings. Your love, oh Lord, reaches to the heaven. Your faithfulness stretches to the sky. Let's stand together. Welcome to all, as everyone's made their way in and online. Great to see you, new faces, welcome. This is the watchword of Israel from Deuteronomy 6. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom. Blessed is his name for all eternity. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. For all eternity. again together. Why are we standing up right now? Because it's the standing prayer. The Amida from the word Omed, or no, Amad. Maybe both, yeah, both. Open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, open my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. God who is faithful through the generations. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Livnei V'neihem Leman Shemo, Be'achava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham. We're learning this one together. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, who is faithful to raise the dead. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye metim atah ve'rav lechoshia. Moshiv ruach u'morid hagashem, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim, somech noflim v'rofeh cholim, u'matir asurim, umkayehem emunato lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot u'medom melach, melech memit umchayeh u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'nemanata lecha chayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim. To the God seated above the heavens, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. To the God who gives us this day of rest and refreshing, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh ha-Shabbat. To the God restoring his presence to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai ha-machazir shechinato le'tzion. To the God worthy of all thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha ulchana'e lehodot. To the God who gives us peace. Baruch atah Adonai havarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. Amen. When the disciples asked, "Teach us to pray," here's what he said. Avinu Shabashamayim, Yitkadesh Mecha, Tavo Malchutecha, Yeaser Ritzonecha, Kasher Bashamayim Gam Ba'aretz, Et Lachmenu Lamacha, Telanu Hayom, Umechalanu al chovoteinu ka'asher machalnu gamanaknu lechayaveinu yal tivienu lidei nisayon ki im tatzilenu min hara ki lecha hamamlacha והגבורה והתפארת לעולמי עולמים אמן. For the sake of Master Yeshua, in his merit and his virtue, may the sayings of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be favorable, be favorable, be favorable to you. Oh Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Oh Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Oh Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Oh Lord, my rock and my redeemer, Yeshua, Hu HaMashiach, Hu Adon HaKol. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, the King of the universe, who's given us the way of salvation in Messiah, Yeshua. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom again and welcome. Our offerings are given any way you like, but there's a link right there to all the different ways that we have. And of course, the tzedakah box in the back if you're in person. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. 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 Oda Binu Chai, Oda Binu Chai. Oda Binu, Oda Binu, Oda Binu Chai. Oda Binu Chai, Oda Binu Chai. Oda Binu, Oda Binu, Oda Binu Chai. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom. I want to say, Ray Head, who usually plays cajon and other weird instruments, and comes up here and gets right in this space. Ray's out 3 weeks because he's working as a firefighter. So he's doing a good thing. Travis Fisher, who serves, plays music and comes up and plays cajon. He'll play drums on Shavuot. This guy right here, This man has a fantastic skill for the bass guitar. I don't know if everyone really can appreciate all that Lance is actually doing, and when Travis and Ray are up here, it just is such a blessing to play with you. I noticed it today, and you're singing and you're playing in your spirit, man.
Thank y'all so much. The music is absolutely wonderful. It brings us into the worship house. Shabbat Shalom, good morning. We thank y'all so much for being here today. It's so good to see all your beautiful smiling faces. All right, everybody smile. All right, there we go. All right, so glad to see y'all. Thank y'all so much for being here and joining us online. Y'all make it all worth it. That's for sure. Everything that we do, y'all make it worth it. We'd like to say hello to Rita Hinton in Forest, Virginia, the Thompson family in Fort Valley, Georgia, Scott and Brenda Trobraw in Dixon, North Dakota, Joanna Kinch in Gerwitz, all right, so in Wales. She told me not England, so it's Wales. I wanted to make sure I got you there, Joanne. MJB in Michigan, Kalia and Jeff Hunter in Portsmouth, England, Karen Forbes in London, Howard and Garlena Jones in Kansas City, Missouri. Thank y'all so much for joining us online. So a quick few announcements. Tour Club today, 1:30. Wow, what a fantastic time that we have in there. And then Kids Hebrew class today at 3:30. So Sabrina sent out an email. Y'all got some kind of test today, kids, so I hope y'all were prepared. And then Torah on Tap tonight at 7 p.m. here. And all those events will be online as well. Just go to the Shalom at Home page and click on the links to be able to join in. And then tomorrow at 2:30 is the Israel trip meeting. For all that's going, you've got the Zoom link in your email that was sent to you this week, so be sure and attend that. In Tu Bishvat. I took my wife's advice and broke it down and spread it out, so it wasn't all. Thanks, Em. That will be February 5th at 6 o'clock. I still believe there's time to sign up for that. You can go online and send an email to Miranda Jones at shalommacon.org to get signed up for that for $5 for that. And then also you bring in a dairy, a parve dish, and a dessert. And just one more thing, a big happy 50th birthday to Daniel Townsley. Welcome to the Over 50 Club, buddy. So, thank y'all so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Miranda's email might be miranda@shalommacon.org. I'm not sure. She's checking, but it will matter because you'll send it to the wrong place. Oh, we don't know. Send it to Miranda Jones at shalommacon.org and Miranda@shalommacon.org, and that way it'll get there. One other announcement. I want to let all the moms know that we have the nursery in the back is a nursery. That means you can go and drop your babies off there, okay? Someone else will watch them for you. You don't have to take care of them. Down the hall in the kibbutz corner, and Amy Fisher is working in the nursery. She's a very qualified mom and rotating with Erica Head to help. So you can drop your kids in the regular nursery. If you're a mom who wants to stay with her child, then we created a space in the kibbutz corner with couches and a few other toys. Sabrina created it actually, so that you can go down there and hang out. But that way, moms who want a break from their kids, I can't imagine why you ever would, can drop them in the very back room that says nursery or something like that. Kids, let's go to Shabbat school. I didn't get it. Emery, come here real quick. Last night I got a picture of this kid right here in his little, like his Shabbat hangout wagon tool. I don't know, his toy, I don't know. But he had this like big kippah on, and Lance had taken the picture close in. So we had this face with a smile, and I swear I felt like I was looking at little Confucius telling me Shabbat Shalom. It was the best. You made my night. Thank you. Yisimcha Elohim Ke'Ephraim V'chi Menashe. May the Lord make you like Ephraim and Menashe. Yisameach Elohim Kesorah Rivka Rachel Valeah. May the Lord make you like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Father, bless our children and protect them, keep them healthy, happy, and learning. Let us fulfill our task to be a community to raise them up. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, yo'er Adonai ponav elecha v'yihuneka, yis Adonai ponav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. All right, you can go find your mom or dad and go to class. It's just not fair. I should wait for these people to get back, but I'm not going to because it's not fair. Life isn't fair. Actually, it's not fair. And this Torah portion this week is the one where we hear it's not fair a lot, because this is the portion where Pharaoh struggles through this thing and with his hard heart, and then we see later God is hardening his heart, which kept him from making good choices. And many people say, how is that possibly fair? How did Pharaoh have any chance if God hardened his heart? Well, if you're in Torah Club, you'll talk about that today, so I'm not going to. I'm the Portion Connections teacher in Torah Club this week, so we'll spend more time talking about that. But I want to talk about a very different kind of not fair. Okay? Because it sure does seem that Moses was treated unfairly. It really does. If you remember last week, we had a good talk about overcoming fear and taking steps and trusting God. And then at the end of Parsha Shemot, last week that introduced the book of Exodus, Moses has taken his step. He did his thing. He did what God asked him to do. And Pharaoh made him look foolish, and everyone hates him, because he's added to their workload, apparently. And that's when he goes to God at the end of last week's Parsha, the little cliffhanger. The Parsha ends in chapter 6, verse 1, last week, when it says, Moses returned to the Lord and said, why have you brought harm to this people? Why did you ever send me? Ever since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he's done nothing but harm to this people, and you have not rescued your people at all. In other words, what's up with this, God? That's not fair. When God tells you to go do something and you go do the thing and it'll go all well, although God didn't really say that. That's not how he described how it would go. But nevertheless, go back, you can read that. To my point, Moses thinks he's walking in, God's with him, he's going to do this thing because it's going to happen, and bam, it's a miserable failure, total failure. So he seems, in my mind, quite justified in expressing his discontent and complaint to God, because it seems as if God has hung him out to dry. And let's be honest, who wouldn't feel that way? Anyone ever had someone make a commitment to show up and help you do something, or meet you somewhere and they've committed to a task and they don't show up? It's disrespectful, it's frustrating, it makes you angry, it's wrong. But there's usually another side to that story if it's someone that's trustworthy and they don't do that. That's the great value of perspective. is if you don't know the reason why someone didn't show up, sometimes we rush to judgment on that, but we find out they had a really good reason to be late. And we understand and know now that Moses didn't really have the full picture of what's going on. He didn't have that perspective. For what you see and hear depends a good deal on where you are standing, C.S. Lewis said. It also depends on what sort of person you are. Now, I'll ask you this question. Has anyone in here ever failed at something? Like really badly failed at something. Something you thought, I got this thing, it's going to go so well, and it just went that way, south, real bad. How did you feel at the end of that? Did you feel like, oh, awesome? How easy is it to have a great perspective when you failed miserably at something? I will answer it. It's very difficult. Almost impossible sometimes to have, yay, bring on the challenges. I love these failures and challenges. But last week I told you that our great struggle in life is that we don't have the script when it comes to God. We don't get to know the beginning and the players and the twists and the turns, and we certainly, for the most part, do not know what God is doing a lot of the time because He's bigger than us. I didn't make that up. Isaiah said it. Your ways are higher than our ways. It's a reality. God does things. But God was doing something for Moses, something He still does today, I'm very convinced. And this is our focus point for today. If you can't learn to fail well, you will probably never succeed at anything great. If you can't learn to fail well, you will rarely succeed at anything great. In other words, I suggested last week that God was allowing Moses this perceived failure for His own good, because it is really one of the most common elements of the greatest heroes of the Bible and of history, that they fail. And I want to conclude with what I think God was telling Moses when He said these words. After Moses complained, after Moses said, this isn't fair, why have you done this? Then Pharaoh said, now you will see. And I want to explain a little bit of what I think is behind that. You've taken the step, you've overcome fear, now you think you failed, you feel that failure inside, the embarrassment, the just terrible low feeling. Now you will see what I'm going to do. And that's last week's Parsha, verse 6:1. We start 6:2 this week. And first off, we need to understand that Moses' self-doubt was not at all erased at this point. I mean, you know, we've come through the conversation at the burning bush and all that, but Moses, and he had taken this step, but he certainly had a lot of hesitance, at least, if not doubt, uncertainty, self-doubt in himself probably. And his question to God was very obvious in that. Why did you send me? In other words, I knew this was going to happen. Why did you send me? I knew what was going to happen. And again, this week, God spoke further to Moses and said to him, I'm the Lord. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as God Almighty, El Shaddai, but my name, Adonai, Hashem, the great, unspeakable, great name of God, I did not make myself known to them. And this is the section in chapter 6, where if you've ever been to a Passover Seder and you're drinking the 4 cups, this is it. It's from chapter 6. These are God's promises when He's talking to Moses. I will bring you out. I will rescue you. 3rd cup. I will redeem you. 4th cup. I will take you. And the text tells us in verse 9, so Moses went and said this to the sons of Israel. He says this, basically. Okay, God, I hear you. You'll do these things. I'll go and tell them. I'll go and tell them. Guys, this is what God told me. 4 or 5 cups, depending on how you look at it. We're going to be delivered. It's going to be fantastic. Trust me. But they did not listen to Moses on account of their despondency and cruel bondage. So again, Moses speaks and fails. No response, and he comes back again to God in verse 12. Behold, the sons of Israel have not listened to me. How then will Pharaoh listen to me, as I am unskilled in speech? He has not lost that particular argument yet. He's not put that aside. The people won't even listen to me. How is this Pharaoh going to listen to me? And again, he says, now it came about on the day when the Lord spoke to Moses in the land of Egypt that the Lord spoke to Moses, I'm the Lord, say to Pharaoh, but Moses said before the Lord, behold, I'm unskilled in speech. How then will Pharaoh listen to me? Hello, are you hearing me, God? This isn't working. And you keep wanting me to go do the same thing. I can't do it. Then you read in chapter 7, Lord said to Moses, see, I've made you as a god to Pharaoh, Elohim, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. Now, do you think Moses felt at this particular moment like a god? Do you think he felt like he was on top of the world and the world was his, of course, kosher oyster, that everything he wanted was laid out before him? But God says, go do the thing. And here's the important part. 7:6. So Moses and Aaron did this as the Lord commanded them. So they did. And Moses was 80 and Aaron was 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. Now I want you to hear it. Last week we talked about it. Vayelech Moshe. And Moses went. He took the first small step out of Midian to speak to Pharaoh. That did not go well, did it? Vayelech Moshe, but he went. And the first lesson is that taking one step into fear and uncertainty is not the end of it. It is multiple steps, usually, for the difficulties of life and the things worth doing. It is a step in the mantra of just do something that we talked about last week. Don't be paralyzed, standing there, doing nothing. Just do something. One small step. That's a lesson that we learned last week. Some success is comprised of many steps. But so now in this story of him going back to Pharaoh after failing, we derive now the first lesson from Moshe's school of overcoming failure. You didn't know he had one, did you? But it's right here in Parsha Vayera. Don't quit. Is that easy enough? Don't quit. Knock down, get up. Knock down, get up. Knock down, get up. Don't quit. That's deep teaching right there, isn't it? Deep. One of the most powerful ways that you overcome self-doubt in your life is to keep going, to get up, even in the face of failure. Now, if you think about the miracles, even once they started doing the miracles, Moses and Aaron now together were still failing. Why? Pharaoh's magicians were doing the same thing. No one was listening, but they persisted. They kept on going. They didn't stop. They kept doing the thing. Fear votes for hesitation, I told you last week, remember? Fear votes to say, knock down, stay down. It's better down here. It's dangerous if you get up. You gave it a shot. Just let it go. Fear votes for hesitation. But you see, fear should do something else in us. It's not your first instinct, I promise you. It's not. It's not natural, but it's definitely in you. Failure should arouse determination within you. Failure should arouse determination. Now, knowing human nature, I know that Moses went, he kept on going, getting up regardless of success. And when Pharaoh continued to say no, when Pharaoh continued to obstruct his mission, something switched inside of Moses, and it became a personal thing. I believe that happens when we fail. Failure shouldn't defeat us. It should challenge you to persist, to not be overcome, to prove to ourselves and everyone else who's watching you, I'm not going to stop. And the things that try to make you stop are the things that you should pay special and particular attention to, overcoming those things. It should become personal, because I got news for you. This is your life. If you don't take it personal, no one else will. You are the one who finds different solutions. Not a reason to quit, but push harder. And for Moses, he had staked everything on this battle. It was now personal, which is how it should be, because I don't care if it's a spiritual calling, if it's a vision or dream you have for your life, that's your life. Take it personal. And Moses did, I believe. No one should be able to derail you from a path, not Pharaoh or your enemies or whatever. And I say no one because think of the things that usually cause us to fail. What is it? Sometimes it's our own ignorance. Usually it's someone else. Usually it's another person. It's someone speaking to you. It's somebody getting in your way. It's somebody telling you can't. And I'm sorry, listen, I like Tony Robbins. I know Tony Robbins, he's been around forever, and some people don't like him and think he's weird and all that. But Tony Robbins is incredibly motivating. That's what he does for a living. But he has a phrase that I want you to anchor somewhere. When your should becomes a must, you are unstoppable. You know what? I really should. It would be good if I would. I know what I should. No. If you ever want to go, you must. You must. Should keeps you hesitating. I must do the thing. And I believe, honestly, it has taken Moses a lot to get to that point, and it was clear that God was with him, but something happened in that process through the difficulties, the failures that God had allowed, and it was personal. It was his must. Moses is like, I'm not quitting. This must be done. Looking at the people, looking at Pharaoh's arrogance, looking at Aaron standing beside him. These people are counting on me. I have to do this. And it was no longer just God's thing, because if you remember, it's not that Moses thought he could do it himself. But if you remember early on, God said, hey, Moses, I've come down to deliver my people. And he was like, cool, go do it. Nope, not anymore. Now it's our thing. We're doing it together. I have been forced to face this jerk, and we're doing it together. Persistence made it personal. That's a thing. He internalized. That's what getting up again does. Moses was God's chosen instrument. God is with him. But this tough road that God had Moses on, it wasn't about being fair. God is a God of justice, but fairness is something very different. It's not fair. It was about being committed and not quitting and not running and throwing in the towel. Because remember, Moses had run before, right? When did he run? When he faced a huge obstacle, like someone wanting to kill you. That's a pretty good reason to run, I get it. But he did. After the murder of the Egyptian guy and Pharaoh wants to kill him, he runs. He ran away. Many people do that when adversity hits. Many more people do it when they fail at something. They just say, that's not, I tried, forget it, it's not for me. Heroes fall, and they get up, and then they learn. That's the key part. Abraham Lincoln once said, I must die or get better. A great, great, great hero of a man. I must die or get better. You know, Lincoln had a pretty serious case of the blues. He battled depression a lot of his life. But after a failure in his home state with some election or to his constituents, he writes, I must die or get better. In other words, I will not quit. I will only improve, or else I'll die trying. My Japanese is terrible. Nara korobi ya oki. Fall 7, rise 8. It's an incredibly powerful Japanese proverb. Fall 7, rise 8. It does not matter how many times. You get up one more time. That's the thing. You know, the Mishnah Success is not fast. The Mishnah tells us that the story of the plagues occurred over a year-long period. Now, it's Judaism. There are a lot of other opinions about that. But this is not a little 10-day thing where every day, let's see what God's going to do today. Ooh, blood water. This was over a long period of time, and Moses is in the thick of this. Persistence. Now, it required a lot of commitment, and I could take the next hour to tell you all kinds of stories about failure. In the Bible, of course, there are a lot of those, but also maybe more relatable in the real world. Tell you about Walt Disney's dream and all the banks he went to, and Colonel Sanders' chicken recipe and all the restaurants he went to. I could tell you about Steve Jobs' computer and getting fired from his company. But I'll just tell you the one you already know probably, which is one of the greatest stories of persistence, is Edison. Thomas Alva Edison. 2,000 different materials they tried to get just to create the filament for the light bulb. 2,000 attempts to create the filament. And his assistant said, all our work is in vain. We've learned nothing, as they were struggling through this, to which Edison replied, oh, we've come a long way. We have learned a lot. We now know that there are 2,000 elements which we cannot use to make a good light bulb. And when the editor asked Edison, how does it feel to have failed 1,000 times trying to do this? I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps. That attitude in your life changes your life. It really does. I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. This is Thomas Edison. God was teaching Moses lessons. First of all, he realized, I'm not alone. God really is with me. That's kind of an important thing that is not always easy to sense, but he is. I'm taking steps, it seems, into uncertainty, and then apparently God shows up and does something. Now that doesn't seem quite fair, but that's the way it is for Moses. I am capable, I can do this, I'm empowered, but it turns out failure is not impossible even when God is with me and I'm empowered. And it turns out possibly that God is orchestrating failure in my life for some reason. Now, that's not fair. He doesn't care. He wants you to rise. He wants you to accomplish the thing that you can do. People fail. They quit or they keep going. But there is one sure way that you will always be a quitter. That is to tell yourself, it isn't fair. And the times in our lives when we tell ourselves things like that, at hard times and failure, that why is this happening? I shouldn't be experiencing what's happening to me right now. That is probably one of the greatest impediments to a fulfilled life that you'll ever have. You can't argue with reality. And I say that with sensitivity because I am not walking in everyone's shoes, and I know terminal illness and broken relationships and all kinds of stuff. I understand it. But first of all, to deny the reality, secondly, to say it's not fair, puts you in paralysis mode. That is ultra counterproductive. Now you will see what I'm going to do to Pharaoh. That was on the other side of Moses' failure. The other side of stepping into the unknown, the scary thing of trusting God's plan. And let's face it, Karen sent me a question this week that I'll answer now. Did Moses know God? Like, what kind of relationship did they have during the burning bush? Of course, there are a lot of opinions, but apparently Moses asked a lot of questions about God. He had been in Midian for a long time. He grew up in Egypt. He only found out he was a Hebrew somewhere in that process. It's not like he was praying to God every day and asking for instructions. This burning bush shows up and says, I want you to go do this and deliver these people from Israel. Who are you? I'm God. Okay, I'll go. That's pretty bold. Moses' failure was the doorway, though, you see, to his triumph. Now you will see. Now, because of your steps of faith and your willingness to get knocked down and get up and fall 7, rise 8, and not quit and learn from setbacks, after those things, now you're able to see the big picture of what's actually going to happen. You're going to be committed to it, and we can do this, Moses. Now you can appreciate success and the plan on a whole new level. And here's the thing, I can't pass up the opportunity to reference President Roosevelt here, who encapsulated everything I'm saying in 140 words. It's not the critic who counts, not the one who points at the strong man as he stumbles, or where tells the doer of deeds where he could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is the person, the man or woman, who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred with blood, sweat, tears, dust. I'm ad-libbing. Who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst fails, but at least fails, endeavoring in a great task, so that they will never be found among those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. Teddy. Way to go, Teddy. And someone might ask, good gracious, Rabbi, is this a Tony Robbins seminar or is this a Shabbat service? It's not a Tony Robbins seminar, but it is a motivating message. Guess what? I have the honor of being able to speak into your lives, to do that. And these Moses lessons, God spoke to him as he was failing. He reassured him. He told him, keep pressing forward. And I get to do that to you. I have the great privilege to stand and talk to you like this about living your life. You might say, fine, I don't have like a great and high calling. I sell insurance. I am a mechanic. I am a rabbi. I'm an accountant. I'm a secretary, a salesman. I live an ordinary life doing ordinary things, and I'm fine doing that. I don't feel like I have a, earth-shaking, let my people go kind of calling on my life. Okay, I get it. So if I can just be personal with you for 1 minute. Of all the people in this room, all of you and all online and everybody who's ever been in this room, whoever thought that they would have an impact on people's lives, to have a calling, I assure you I would have been at the bottom of that list. I assure you of that. And I know that, this is relatively small potatoes, what I do here, but I do have the honor and great privilege of helping people live their best life, which is something that I was not very good at for many, many years. Many years. I come from a self-induced, rough background and history of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and all kinds of unspeakable things. Not successful by the world's standard in my early life. As a matter of fact, I think if my dad had not called me at a low place in life and said, come and work with me, I wouldn't be standing here. I'd be wandering around Midian in some aimless quest. But you see, I didn't know God's plan, and so when God showed up in my own burning bush, I was scared to death. I had no confidence. It started like this. Hey, pick up you play the guitar. Pick it up, sing for all these people songs about God. No, I don't sing. I sing by myself with no one else. I don't do that. I can't do that. Do it. Okay. Then, why don't you lead this congregation through all the mishigas that is congregational leadership? Why don't you and Kelly take up those reins? Lead. I can't. I talk too slow. I talk like a robot. They called me Mr. Roboto in high school. I can't do that. I'm not smart enough. I'm not qualified enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not religious enough. I'm a whole bunch of not enoughs. And all along the way to today, I've been scared a lot. And I've had a lot of failure, and I've been discouraged a lot, and I still get discouraged, and I still fail, and I still sometimes worry about my ability to even do what I do and make any connections to you or teach you or improve your life or do anything, and imposter syndrome and every other imaginable thing. But I'm qualified to stand up here and give you this message. Do you know why? Because I've done what I have been telling you to do over the last 2 weeks. I learned it from Moses and from many other people like him who've come after him. It has been on the other side so often of a big, scary, uncertain step, or after a massive failure, or feeling that a massive failure was imminent, that God showed up. Miraculously, this isn't a new message. There's probably 15,000 of these messages going to be given. Hey, I was really struggling and God showed up. Wow, that's novel. No, but when it's your life, it means something. And, he shows up, and not without audibly saying most of the time. He doesn't usually say, now you'll see what I'm going to do. He just gets busy doing it. If you're along for the ride. And I know there are many, many scary and uncertain things still ahead that I need to do in my life. And I'm scared of them. I don't even know what they are because I don't know God's plan. But, I find myself fighting against them. But I've seen enough to know this. Take the step or forfeit the miracle. Take the step or forfeit the miracle. There are so many people in this world who will never, ever know the potential that God gave you because of fear, because of failure. And Moses could have done the same thing, but he didn't. Moses fell from his high position in Egypt to murderer, to exile, to shepherd in the middle of nowhere for 60 years. You want to talk about ordinary? I'm going to talk about sort of shamed and disgraced and wandering around with sheep in Midian with the Jethro and God called him and he listened. And he didn't look so great and high and incredible then, but when we skip ahead, this is the beginning of Moses' story in Exodus, and we know so much. Let's skip all the way. Think about what we've learned and think about what's ahead for Moses, because we come to 34, chapter Deuteronomy 34. Near the end now of Moses' life. We're at the beginning now. And Moses, the servant of the Lord in Deuteronomy, died there in Moab. As the Lord had said, he buried him in Moab. God buried Moses in the valley opposite Beth Peor, that to this day no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone, which makes me just so much love Moses. That's the potential we have. Now, I hope that one of you goes and parts the Okmulgee River for us to walk through it. Or, whatever. Let's go to Destin and part the Caribbean Sea. I don't know. It's probably not going to look like that. That may not be the scope of the thing that you do, but it's your story that God wants to write in you. And as we model our lives after Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher, and live our lives, not without fear, but in spite of fear, with courage, as I talked to you about last week. And not with complaints of failure, but a willingness to be taught from what God allows in our lives, even in failure, for our own good, for the good of others. So I'll say this. May Hashem's words to Moses' successor, the one who had to step in and fill Moses' shoes, talk about a job, and he did. Who was it? Yehoshua, God is salvation, Joshua. Hashem's words to Joshua, may they rest deep within you. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified nor dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. And in the words of the Duke, the one and only John Wayne, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. Shabbat Shalom. Let's stand together. Leader of a congregation in Nashville, Quentin, asked me, I've looked and I've noticed that I've looked in all the Siddurim and I don't know any custom where you open the doors for the Aleinu at the end. Where is that derived from? And I said, well, it's derived from some traditional synagogue somewhere along the way in my journey who I saw do it one time and thought, that's cool. Because of the meaning that I attach to it for us now, which is the Aleinu is a kingdom prayer. These gates, which is how I envision the ark, these gates are a picture of the coming kingdom when Jew and Gentile, the house will be called a house of prayer for all nations. And we open the gates and we say before the one we know before whom we stand, and we're asking for the kingdom, and the gates are open, and we say this fantastic prayer. But then at the end, we have to close the gates. Why? It's not here yet. It's a reminder. Every week, when those gates shut, and these are particularly powerful because of the metal sound that they make when the gates shut, I realize we have a high calling as disciples of the Messiah to bring the kingdom now. When he comes, we'll have been about our Father's business already. That's why we open the gates for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabech la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגופי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, עמד מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת חיום והשבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר, וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. On that day the Lord will be one, and his name will be one. But you also have to remember, just as a side note, above is the Ner Tamid, the everlasting light. Even at all times, forever and always, no matter what the state of the gates is, God is with us. It's the reminder of the Shekhinah, the presence, the goodness of God. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you his peace. B'Shem Yeshua. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yo'er Adonai ponav elecha v'yihuneka. Yisa Adonai ponav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, my friends.